Yeah, I'm a little behind, so we're doing some maintenance while we talk. Currently, we've got the filter off in Fallen Forest while we refill the water. I've done some draining. We've got a top off running river over there, and then you can probably hear the FX6 and its overflow making a ton of noise over in the Guppy Mansion over there. We'll get that way in a minute. I want to talk about a few things. Obviously, not the normal video, right? Normally, I don't do maintenance-oriented videos. But we'll do a couple tips and tricks as we do kind of a secondary fish room update in this particular edition. So here's the big thing. My week has been jammed with a bunch of job finding stuff and putting up with issues with Shantotto's recovery. I'm going to get to both of those in a second. But a little secret that maybe you guys don't know, when I was first interviewing for my job previously at Amazon, I did a lot of prep. And by a lot of prep, I mean 2 to 3 hours every night, so 7 days a week, for a month. I looked up every single person that they told me I was interviewing with. I looked at their online profiles, their work history to get a feeling for who they are, to try and understand their skill sets and experience. It takes a lot of time. So when my job right now is literally interviewing constantly and not interviewing for just one job, you can imagine how much extra research I'm putting in. Now, granted, not quite as extreme, right? I'm not going as crazy on every single one, but I'm still spending easily 2 to 4 hours a night on top of applying to new jobs and tinkering with my resume for specific things, researching and prepping for interviews. So needless to say, sometimes that interferes with things, and Shantotto getting hurt really messed with some of that. There we go. We got this a little higher. We can actually do this without it being completely obnoxious. So we had our live stream Tuesday. I gave you guys an update that Shantotto was doing pretty good. She was walking a little more confidently. And then after the live stream, she hurt herself. I know, right? So she did something that she must have slipped, or I'm not sure. Maybe she was trying to get up in a chair that I keep trying to block. But needless to say, she re-dislocated her hip. I wasn't sure that's what was going on because she wasn't screaming in as much pain. She was just kind of mildly whining. This all happened while I was in the bathroom. So I come out and she's waiting for me, and she's got her hip kind of cocked out a little funky. I've got a picture I'll put up just to show you kind of how she's got it pigeon-toed out a little bit. I guess that's not pigeon-toed, right? Pigeon-toed's in, but you know what I'm saying. And I emailed the surgeon and was just like, hey, can I bring her in so you can take a look? I'm really hoping she didn't re-injure herself. And I made them kind of aware of my situation, which I previously hadn't really done because I don't know why I didn't. That was probably very dumb. Anyway, they scheduled me the next day. So Wednesday morning, I'm able to get her in about 10 in the morning or so. And brother-in-law James comes with me. We drop her off, and we're sitting in the car waiting. And I see the surgeon walking out. And they were like, hey, when we dropped her off, they were like, we're going to figure out what's going on, and then we'll come out and let you know what's up. And the fact that the surgeon was walking out told me this is bad news. So he explained she re-dislocated her hip. This is something that sometimes happens, even with the surgery with certain dogs. Even when we're doing everything we can, they can just slip. She does, and I think somebody mentioned this in a comment, she just kind of have a shallow hip. So there is a different type of surgery that had to be done called an FHO, where basically the ball that sits in the socket of the hip on a dog, they remove it. And as the scar tissue and muscles heal up, if you get them to keep it active, which is interesting, it creates a false joint. And it's kind of similar in knee replacement surgery, in a sense that you will get scar tissue that kind of does some work for you around the new joint. Look at that seamless transition, right? Now, this only needs a top off, so I can kind of leave that over there and just monitor. Now, here's where the great news came in. That's the bad news, right? My week is now deflated, and I'm terrified that I'm going to get another, like, $6,000 bill. And the surgeon just goes, hey, dogs are dogs. Sometimes this happens. Don't worry. If you can keep her here today, we'll do it today. We'll get the surgery done, and you can pick her up later this afternoon, right before we close. We're just going to take care of you. You heard that right. So the surgeon, who's really awesome, and apparently this is what he does. So a big shout out to the Animal Care Clinic in Tacoma, and Dr. Hoots especially. Yeah, Hoots is his last name, but he's a super nice guy. Just this is what they do, and this cases like this where this is going to happen is they kind of buffer a few things in prep, and then should this happen, they just take care of the second surgery for you if it happens within a certain window of time, which is apparently kind of wide, like I think a month. But I can't speak that that's their policy. I just know that he just said, hey, we're going to take care of you. Don't worry about it. We're just going to do the surgery, no cost. Here's what you're going to have to do. And he gave me instructions on how different the recovery is, because previously we want her to move as little as possible. Now it's different, and we want to try and get her walking slowly for the first month in small 5 to 10 minute bashes as often as we can. So there's that. It ate up a bunch of my time, and needless to say, what I wanted to do has not gotten done. So we're doing this around the fish room. Now, I'm about to have to transition over to the Guppy Mansion, and I want to teach you guys a trick. So let's pause this thing. Hi. Now, in tanks like the Guppy Mansion, and yes, I know, Bentley with no hat still, it gets hot in this fish room, so wearing a hat just makes it hotter. This big open hole with dumb guppies equals fish up tube. So, whenever I water change this bad boy, I just take a little mesh bag, because this has such a heavy like root feeding substrate, I really don't need to gravel vac at all. Right? We zip it closed. And then I've got a strainer to prevent Fry and other adult idiot guppies from going up this thing. Pretty slick, right? And once it's in here, I really just need to do some simple water change. I have a lot of moss I got to get out of this thing eventually, but I don't have time for that today. However, I will say this. Makes this a lot easier. You can see, even down here, right? If you watch after a second, you will see these dumb guppies trying to figure out how to get in there. Because it's what they do. They're not the smartest things in the world, but man, are they pretty. And you can actually see, I don't know if you see it up here. There's a horde. I mean, top down, it's incredible. Actually, let me get out my cell phone. We'll do it this way. We'll do a little top-down shot with my cell phone here. You guys can see this, right? So you got the normal video. You can kind of watch it live. But just look. Let me move this light. Maybe that'll help some. But you can see how many of them are swarming around. Maybe if I... Shh, don't ignore how dirty the top of my tank is right now. But you can see how many of them swarm around this thing. They're like, is this food? It's not food. How do we get inside it? I don't know. Guppies are dumb. But I love them, man. Anyway. Yeah, you've seen some of the secrets of where I need to do. If I was super meticulous about my cleaning, what I would really do. But while this thing drains, because it's going to take a while, this is a 140-gallon acrylic tank. That's a lot of water to do a good water change on. And it is due for about a 50%er. Let's go back over here, sit down and talk. All right. So as you can see, the tank I drained, still sitting here. That's next, basically. After, and you can see me just like sweating like crazy in here, because it's hot. This room is 82 degrees right now. It's a little toasty. And that's with the dehumidifier not running right now. It could get up to like 83. Typically doesn't get too much hotter than that. at normal temperatures. So it's not super hot outside, but when it gets super hot outside, it can get very, very warm in here. Anyway, next up, moving this tank over here, getting it gone so we make the space here, potentially 1 to 2 new tanks. And then, more importantly, the 40-gallon breeder that's over there, we're going to start work on. I've got it drained. I've got the filter shut off. I just got to actually physically remove it. And then we're probably going to apply a back to that tank, so I've got to clean it up a bit and get same thing we use on Fallen Forest. Yeah, I know, loud bang. But this just black window cling that's vinyl, because it works really well. It did a great job on Fallen Forest, and it's really easy to apply, and it's not very expensive, so you don't need to paint or, paint 7 times or whatever you need to do. It's just simple window cling, not terribly hard to install. Is it perfect? No, there's probably better options out there. Painting's probably the best one, but it goes easy. Also did a little trim in here, kind of trimmed down some of the nymphaeas. We've got these Anubias here that are pretty well acclimated at this point. They just need to get attached to some of the wood. And then I've still been trying to figure out what other plant I want to put in. I kind of want to plant the foreground a little bit more and just have some extra foliage, but I found out through some of my friends that the upper Tor rivers that are in this tank are particularly partial to eating Stargine repens, which was the first plant I had in my head because I like Stargine repens a lot. I like its foliage shape, and I'm not looking for a big carpet, so I could put a couple here, a couple there, and make little pockets of things. And maybe you could do that with like Crypt Parva, or even potentially some like dwarf hairgrass or something. But what I want to know from you guys in the comments down below, tell me, is there a plant you think that would be good for this? We don't want like a huge carpet. We're just going to put little pockets up front to add a little extra foliage in Fallen Forest to the front of the tank. Not completely covering it, right? We're still going to have some big open spaces, show that wood, show some of the rock. We want to still have that visual aesthetic. But I think it's kind of like the finishing touch that, having seen the tank evolve now, it needs. So, ideas in the comments down below. I'd love to see what you guys think is interesting. So yeah, there's that Shantotto update. My dog, again, thank you so much to so many of you who've helped out with the GoFundMe while I'm trying to find work again. Definitely not easy to handle a bill that is basically 3 mortgage payments when you're unemployed. So, yeah. Dog vets are expensive. And for those of you who are dog lovers and have had for sharing your stories and had similar issues with your pups, bless your heart for being like me and not even thinking about like, can I afford it? Just get it done and figure it out later, right? It's good to have people with that mentality where you treat your pets more like your kids, right? You love them to death. That's how I've always treated all my pets. That's probably why I'm this level of psycho with fish tanks all over the place and 3 dogs and right? Oh man. Anyway, so her recovery should go fine. It just gotta we've taken her on a few short walks already, and the whole thing is basically I just take her out in the backyard and let her. We want to just see her moving that leg so that muscle and scar tissue builds up and creates that false joint. This, like I said, this is called an FHO, if you ever want to look it up. I'll put a link to an article down in the description, just if you're curious, like what exactly they did to Shantotto. But yeah, some more aggressive surgery, and the recovery time is about the same in that it's about 3 months. But realistically, the first month is a little slow going, and then it's like really months 2 and 3 where you start really pushing and working harder to get her to really build up that confidence and strength back in that leg. Because right now, she barely touches that leg, and she often just kind of holds it limp, or it's just kind of dangling, sort of. And it looks terrible, believe me. I see it. I feel horrible for her, but this is the process of healing, building up that scar tissue. And as I force her to walk slow, because if she starts running, she just holds that leg up and just tries to 3-leg hop, right? So I've got to force her to walk slow, which is good because I walk slow. But minimize her movement to slower to where she's going to touch with that leg and move it. And basically we just need to like windmill move it to help actuate the muscles and kind of build some of that scar tissue up, because that's what does this process. This is actually better in a sense for kind of her long term, but it doesn't maintain the joint the way it used to be, which is one of the things that the surgeon has a preference for, because it can just be it can be less hard to do the recovery that way sometimes. Depends on the owners, and in our case, and maybe with Shantotto, this is probably actually the better surgery. So big thanks to that surgeon. Thank you so much. I don't think Dr. Hoots will ever see this, but thank you, Doc. We really appreciate you. My family really, really appreciates you. Anyway, what else have we got? I think that's pretty much it. Oh man, it's so warm in here. It's so warm. Yeah, I've got to strip down this tank next. I've got it drained. I let the dehumidifier pull some of the extra water out of it so that there's the little water that couldn't come out with my Python is out. I basically just got to clean the sand out of it and some of the extra plant debris and algae to get it clean to where it's usable by somebody else, because I'm probably just going to sell that tank off. Yeah, I might be doing like the akin of an aquatic garage sale at some point. So if you're in the Northwest and you were like looking for some spare tanks, including some of my like crazy Hong Kong style tanks, remember those ones with really tall rims on the side and the back? I have a bunch of those spare. I'm basically just going to start cleaning house. Use part of that to help pay for a Shantotto surgery, and just get rid of some stuff. Because while I'm not to say like LRB levels of hoarder, I have a lot of equipment around for when I was planning on doing certain things, and then as my plans shifted over time, and I learned how much of a pain the circuitry in my house is, I started changing it like, well, let's just do standard 40 breeders everywhere. The headache I would have saved myself if I would have just thought about that ahead of time, right? I wouldn't have to deal with this process where I've got tons of small tanks I need to get rid of and all that kind of nonsense. But back then I was trying more things than I am now, and I'm really into a really specific set of things when it comes to my hobby. So that's kind of changed things. But anyway, and then once we get that thing over there, the 40 breeder, going where it needs to be, I've got a bunch of... I'm literally going down to Tractor Supply Company this weekend. I've got to pick up a big bag of safety Zorb for the 40 breeder that's going here, where we're going to do a undergravel filtration particular system that is slow moving. We'll run some tests on that and just kind of do some experiments with it before I convert it into a planted tank. And a very special fish will go in that specific tank. But that one over there, I'm going to Tractor Supply Company. I need the safety Zorb for this tank. I need a tarp so I can more effectively wash in mass all my safety Zorb and all the Pagoda Stone. I said Pagoda Zone. That'd be a good restaurant name. Anyway, all the Pagoda Stone that goes in the 40 breeder for the next aquascape that my wife is doing. And then I've got to figure out what I can fit space-wise where this bad boy is. If I can do 2 small tanks that are the size I want to do versus just a singular one. If it's a single one, then that'll be something weird and interesting. If I can fit 2, we might do one where brother-in-law James does a tank and my wife does a tank. And we let them both have something different and interesting. We'll see how that all pans out. But yeah, that's about it. I'm going to be draining the Guppy Mansion for at least another 20 minutes, half an hour. It takes a while to drain it where I want it to be before I can fill it back up. But I just wanted to share that little tip with you, give you guys some updates on Shantotto, because I know so many of you are really interested in how her recovery is going. And now she's got recovery part 2 because, yeah, she reheard herself. She's so active and wants to be so active that she can't, no matter how hard I try to force her by like barricading everything under the sun, she will still find ways to be super active and stubborn. So now in this version, she can be active, just I have to slow her pace some to help get her to build that confidence back up. But in the long run, she's going to be okay. She's going to be running around, being an active little crazy dog again. And this house will get back to some semblance of normal. Yeah, I got fish room maintenance to do. It's kind of boring. And then a bunch of job interviews. So that being said, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your patience. I know that the last couple of videos have been kind of off the rails, but just life events and things that are happening for me necessitate it, and I kind of want to give you guys updates and let you see that, like, when my world's not going perfect or normal or structured, this is kind of how I handle things. I do my maintenance at different times than I normally would, with different methodologies potentially. Not really, the methodology is the same, but, you know, trim here, did some glass cleaning, emptied out a bunch of stuff in the angelfish tank, did that, did this, you know, got these tanks empty, now I need to get their filters off and all that kind of stuff. But regardless, just kind of things that I do when I'm doing maintenance, and normally I don't show a lot of that. I thought I would show one trick for dealing with the guppies that maybe you could use if you've been having trouble with fish trying to get into your python or something similar when you're doing your water changes. For those with automatic water systems, I envy you. Anyway, I'm gonna stop rambling. We'll end it here. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.